Memorial Day weekend, all about remembering the fallen, those who gave their lives defending this nation. True sacrifice, literally, what the word means is the act of making something holy. So what is the best way to remember them? And also support other military members during this time. Let's bring in Senator Tammy Duckworth, Iraq War veteran, Purple Heart recipient. Always good to have you on prime time, and every time I see you, and certainly this time, thank you for your service to the country.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on, and it's good to see you looking healthy again.
I'm one of the lucky ones. So are we right to be as perturbed as many of us are about not hearing from Secretary Wilkie, not getting a straight count on veterans, this idea that they're dying in other systems and not being counted, and some states aren't counting them at all? Are we right to be upset, or is there some excuse to be had?
Well, we are right to be upset, and we should be concerned because veterans are especially vulnerable to COVID-19, especially those who were exposed to burn pits in Iraq and Afghanistan. And don't forget that our Vietnam veterans who were exposed to Agent Orange also have reduced lung functions and other comorbidity, other illnesses that make them even more vulnerable to this pandemic.
And a lot of them are old, so we know they're vulnerable. The question is, did the system make them more vulnerable? Do you have questions for the Secretary?
I do have questions for the Secretary. I want to make sure that all the VA facilities are up and able to take care of all of our veterans. But we should be testing, all of our veterans. And we need to make sure that we know who is actually either falling ill or dying as a result of COVID-19. Now, I will tell you, I've called all of the VA hospitals in Illinois and had great relationships with all of those hospital directors. But unfortunately, within the VA, the problem that we have is when you've gone to one VA, you've gone to one VA. They're not consistent across the country, and we need to do a better job of that. And that's where Secretary Wilkie can certainly step forward and provide some leadership. But he's been awfully quiet during this whole pandemic, unfortunately.
What do you make of that?
Well, I just don't know whether he truly has a handle on things. I, for example, know that Hines VA has taken care of all of their own folks and has actually taken on some cases from the civilian population as well. That's my VA hospital in the Chicagoland area. But I worry that, there are veterans who are in nursing homes who are falling ill and dying and not being counted as veterans who are passing away. And some of them, as you mentioned, are more vulnerable because of Agent Orange. They're older. And again, don't forget the Iraq and Afghanistan veterans. They have problems with respiratory illnesses already.
And look, for me, it's just everybody's so quick to say how much we love you guys and how you're the best of us and we owe you so much. And it seems like we always fall down on that commitment. And it's very frustrating. Let me ask you something else while I have you. One political question. So Biden goes on with Charlemagne the God, in my opinion, maybe one of the best names in entertainment. And Charlemagne is having a serious conversation with him. And Biden says, listen, if you don't know who to vote for between me and Trump, you're not black. Now, the VP says today, I was being too cavalier. I shouldn't have been a wise guy. I shouldn't have spoken that way. How big a deal?
Well, look, I think the big deal is Donald Trump in the White House, right? And so let's not have false equivalencies right here. If there's a person that I'm going to trust who's going to been there for persons of color, for minorities, for women, it's been Joe Biden his entire career. I would rather trust Joe Biden to represent true diversity in the White House than I would Donald Trump any day of the week.
Tailor the response to the minority community, some of whom believe, Democrats take our votes for granted. And there's a nonchalance in the way he just spoke about us. Some of them feel that bespeaks that nonchalance, that they take us for granted. And why should they just keep voting for Democrats if there's nothing in it for them, specifically for them?
Well, let me tell you what Democrats are doing. Democrats, for example, I started the Environmental Justice Coalition in the Senate to make sure that our Black and brown communities, which are where we tend to dump our toxic chemicals, are the ones that are going to be best served. And in fact, in Illinois, for example, African Americans are 15% of our population, yet over 40% of our COVID-19 positive cases because of health inequities. And we're working very hard to address those issues. It is Democrats who are out there making sure that we send money to all of our hospitals, including those that are on the front lines. It is Democrats who stand up time and time again to fight for working families. We're the ones who are pushing the HEROES Act that will provide assistance for people who are essential workers, not just the doctors and nurses who are heroic, but the janitors who are cleaning our hospitals, the folks who are working on the front lines in our, at McDonald's, supplying my daughter with McNuggets every single day, and those who are working in our grocery stores who are never signed up to be on the front lines of a global pandemic, but here they are. It is Democrats who are watching out for working families all across this country, and we are truly the party of diversity. And so if you're going to compare, go right on ahead. You'll see that the Democrats and Joe Biden, as the person who's going to lead us into victory in November and into the White House, will be the party that will be watching out for hardworking Americans, no matter what your background, and that we do care about diversity. And we always have.
If you care so much, Senator Duckworth, would you consider being VP with Joe Biden on the ticket?
Well, I've never said no when my country has called me to serve. But my focus really is on getting Joe Biden into the White House. And whatever that takes, I'm willing to do that, because our country is in trouble right now with Donald Trump in the White House. He certainly has led us down a path that has left us a nation in crisis. And we desperately need Joe Biden and his leadership, all his years and decades of experience, to lead us out and back into the global environment where we can lead the world again, and we can take care of Americans and taking care of hardworking families. So whatever I can do to get Joe Biden into the White House, I'm going to do it.
Well, Dick Durbin said your name is in the mix, and if they're looking for a warrior, I don't know who comes before you. Senator Tammy Duckworth, the best to you and your family. Thank you for your service. Thank you for making time for us tonight.
Thank you for having me on, and happy Memorial Day.